Zindagi Matters, special edition on mental health and human rights. Supported by Taiwan Foundation for Democracy.
Welcome to Zindagi Matters, where we delve into the lives of extraordinary individuals who challenge norms and inspire change. And today we have the privilege of speaking with Rajat Nirula, a remarkable individual who has been living with bipolar disorder. Rajat brings a unique perspective to our conversation, offering insights into his journey, navigating life with this condition. Rajat's story is one of resilience and courage. I'm your host Geeta Lal Sahai, and as I embark on a thought-provoking discussion with Rajat Nirula, shedding light on the realities of living with mental health issues, let me welcome Rajat Nirula. Welcome to the show, Rajat Nirula.
Thank you, Geeta, for inviting me to this podcast, and I'm really looking forward to our discussion.
So, Rajat, let me begin from the beginning. Let's go back in time and just share a moment when you realized that something might be different about your mental health. And what were those initial signs or symptoms you experienced that made you think that there is some issue with your mental health?
So for that, Geeta, I'll have to start from 2015 because that was the year that I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Before that, I had not even heard about these two words, that such an illness exists. So
how old were you? Sorry to interrupt. How old were you in 2015?
I had just turned 30. An age where people...
Are you telling me that you did not have any symptoms before that?
No, there weren't any symptoms before that. Sometimes the onset of bipolar is even in late 20s. So I think I was, my troubled childhood might have added to it, but doctor cannot pinpoint any particular reason. It's not even hereditary for me. So it was, something that I had not heard about. I had not experienced, although as a teenager I lost my parents, but even, I thought that so all these things happened, but I had never gone through a mental illness till the age of 30.
So if you do not mind, can you share that trauma, that grief that you carried with you?
I was 11 years old when my mother passed away due to blood cancer. I think my father was not able to take that shock, and he became an alcoholic. He even remarried, and he made all those wrong decisions. And 3 years after that, my father got a cardiac arrest, and he also passed away. I was 1999. I was 15 years old. So, interestingly, Geeta, when I used to go for therapy, my therapist divided my life into 4 parts. The first part, when I was a firefighter, when all these things were happening during my teen years. The second half in my 20s, when I was a nomad. I did not take my career also that seriously. When I turned 30, when I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, I became a victim. And now this phase of my life is the redemption phase of my life. So these 4 phases of my life I would like to do, if I can divide it.
So who brought you up, Rajat?
I was raised by my grandmother. So I was raised by my grandmother single-handedly. And
maternal or paternal?
Paternal. My paternal grandmother. Me and my sister were both raised by her. And recently, 3 years ago, I got married. So
you were telling me about the first symptom that occurred at the age of 30. So what were those, and when you realized that you have some mental health issue?
That's a good question, Geeta. So January 2015, I saw, and now I can, at that time, obviously didn't realize my mood would be constantly up. I would wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, go for a morning walk, pepped up all the time, a lot of ideas. So my mood would be, up all the time. I had a lot of energy. That continued for a couple of months. And in March 2015, that up mood became a manic episode, which basically means that I lost touch with reality and all those hallucinations, weird, thoughts like I am God. A manic episode is like that. That's a very common symptom in a manic episode, that you think you have superpowers, etc. So that psychotic episode, it lasted for around good 1 month. 1 month is a very long time to stay in altered reality. In April, I crashed 2015 and I did not know what had hit me. To give you a perspective, Geeta, it's like a manic episode, how it feels like. You are going at 200 kilometers per hour and you smash into a wall. Now, what would happen to that car? The same thing happens to the human brain. I went into, so that's why it's called bipolar disorder, two ends of the pole, too high and too low. Obviously, you have type 1 and type 2. I was diagnosed with type 1. And when I crashed, I went into clinical depression. I would not even, for 5 days, I was just lying in, bed, doing nothing, not even eating. And I think it lasted for good 2-3 weeks, that state, vegetable state, literally. And then slowly, I started, at least going for a shower, but still I was not able to work.
So all this while you did not take any medicine?
Once that clinical depression started and I realized what had happened, I requested my friend, whom I troubled a lot I troubled everyone in that manic episode. In fact, because of that, I've lost few friends as well. So I requested my friend, they both live nearby, that please take me to a doctor. And then they took me to women's and my medicine started. So I tried working after that, but I just could not. I was not in a condition to work, which at that time, I think people did not understand. But it took me 2 years to recover from that.
I can understand. So where were you working at that point in time?
I was working as a corporate trainer with Centum Learning.
So you had to resign then?
No, I didn't resign. I think in my manic episode, I just blasted everyone in the office. And now it seems funny, but that time it wasn't. So I blasted everyone in the office. I said, I don't give two hoots about your job. And I just left it like that. There was no resignation. So that's the side effects of a manic episode. You not only, you lose everything. You lose everything. You lose your job, your money. I think I spent close to 5 lakhs during that 1 month manic episode. So
what did you buy?
I did not buy. I traveled business class from Delhi to Goa, Mumbai. I would stay in Osho Ashram for 3 days. Oh, that's an experience in itself. Yeah, it has its downsides, but the early part of the manic episode, you splurge like anything. These are the classic symptoms. So that's where a lot of people who have bipolar type 1 disorder, they never keep their credit cards, their debit cards with them. They just keep it to someone so that if they reach that stage, they don't have access to ruin their finances. It's a very classic, now I remember once during my manic episode, Geeta, I distributed 500 rupees notes at a red light and there was a stampede.
Obviously.
And but then you crash from it and you realize what has happened. I've lost my friends. I've lost my job. I have blown away my savings. And now I'm going through this. Anyone would go through, clinical depression at that time. But that part is the hardest when you crash from an episode, because during an episode, you're on top of the world. You don't care about anything. It's when you hit reality again that you realize what have you done.
So how much time did you say it took you basically to come back to realize what is real and what is unreal, what is delusion?
It took me good 1 month.
1 month from
1 month.
clinical depression to come back to this, or from manic episode?
The manic episode lasted 1 month. I
Hmm.
think after that, just being in a vegetable state lasted for 1 month.
Hmm.
And then slowly and gradually the recovery started happening when I started reading about it, understanding it a little more. And it took me 2 years. For 2 years, I was sitting at home. And
It
then
must have
2000,
been very shocking, Rajat, like to realize at the age of 30 that you have bipolar and with no symptoms.
you don't know what has hit you for the first few months.
Hmm.
You just don't know when you have not heard about it. I mean, at that time I would blame others for not understanding my condition. But now I realize that it was probably not their fault, but because even I could not understand my condition at that time. It
Hmm.
took, it takes a lot of time. I had to self-aware myself about this condition. I would watch videos on YouTube. I would read. And
Hmm.
so, and that was a very, very difficult time because that manic episode, the things that I did in my manic episode would haunt me no
Hmm.
end.
Hmm.
It would haunt me like anything. And,
Hmm.
the reaction of people, but, obviously everyone around you in your life is taken by a shock. So I think
Hmm.
this is the kind of illness that disrupts lives of others as well who are close to you.
Hmm.
That's, I think, the worst part of it.
Yeah, basically caregivers, they suffer, they take a lot, in fact.
That's true.
And who has been your carer? Like
So
who has
my
taken care of you in your uh, manic episode and
s-
depression?
see, I during manic episode, nobody can take care of you. You're on a different world altogether.
Hmm.
I think during my depression, couple of friends tried to as much as they could understand at that time. But ultimately, it was I think my grandmother, my sister, uh, who
Hmm.
just my sister especially, whatever she could understand, she did at that time. Obviously, she was also in college, so she also had her studies.
Hmm.
But my grandmother would not understand what has happened, but she would like, okay, time se khana khao, being a
Hmm.
Punjabi grandmother that she is. But
Hmm.
she was also taken aback that after losing her son, her
Hmm.
young grandson in the prime of his life does not even
Hmm.
come out of the room.
Hmm. I can understand. She wouldn't understand also. So
She
you
tried her
said you
best.
lost your friends, Rajat. So, like, what did you do to them? Were you too nasty in your episode? Or, have you won them back or not as yet?
So that's a good, that question has so many layers, Geeta.
Hmm.
And I think, on some level, the illness did not bother me that much as how I, because of me, other people got impacted and how I ruined a lot of relationships. I think that impacted me more because I was so close to my friends.
Hmm.
I was pretty close to my friends. So their lives got impacted. The things that I did, I used to write them weird emails, threaten them,
Hmm.
uh, all kind of weird stuff I did at that time, you know. Um, but then slowly, gradually, when, they also got to know, few of them understood, few of them, you know,
Hmm.
did not. But, and they tried to help me. In fact, after my first episode, I was taken to the hospital, with, uh, a very dear friend with whom
Hmm.
I had a fallout, and now we talk. We're on good terms. We both matured and everything. A lot has happened in his life. A lot has happened in my life. So yeah, I mean, I do talk to them, but I've somehow felt that my friendships were never the same after what had happened. I
Hmm.
just felt that. I have no grudges now. I don't. At that time, it would impact me a lot, but after therapy and everything,
Hmm.
it took me few years to heal from that.
Hmm.
And I've had two episodes. So I lost few friends in the first episode. The few who were left, I made sure I do things that I lose them as well.
But you did it without realizing it, Rajat.
I did it without realizing it, Geeta, but it is something that others don't.
But now when they know, Rajat, that what had happened to you was this, do they not come on their own and be with you as they were before?
See, a lot of years have also passed, Geeta, and I think men tend to, we are on very good terms. I think I like this phase of a friendship as well. But so much has happened. Everyone is busy in their own lives. They all have their own families. I got married, so I have a partner now. So whenever we meet once or twice a year, it's beautiful. And I think I just want to forget that bad phase of my life, and whatever had happened. But at that time, it impacted me a lot.
What about your partner? Is it a love marriage or arranged marriage?
So it's love come arrange. We met, through one of those matrimonial portals, and then we spoke for a couple of months, and then things,
So
we
she
like.
knew it before marrying you that she is marrying a person who is living with bipolar, right?
Geeta, I can't tell you, I was certain in my mind I am not going to get married without discussing this. And a lot of girls would just run for their lives once they heard bipolar disorder. And I was certain if this person is meant to be in my life, I have to share. So I had gone to Josh Talks for one of my YouTube videos. And after talking to her for a couple of months, I said, I want to share something. And I shared my YouTube video with her, and I waited for a reply next morning. I said, only after watching this, you take your decision what you have to, because I shared everything in it. And she was like, it doesn't matter to me. That's another thing, that she's very aware in terms of mental health issues, because she has gone through a bad patch as well, where she was suffering from depression, and she went to therapy. So she had better understanding. But, yeah, I think I'm really lucky that phase, because it's very difficult in Indian society to get into an arranged marriage with this kind of a condition.
You are listening to Zindagi Matters, special edition podcast on mental health and human rights, supported by Taiwan Foundation for Democracy.
So you mentioned that you write also. So what kind of thing? Is it a journaling that gave you relief, or is it something you write fiction? Like what kind of writing do you do?
So during that time, when I would be sitting at home and doing nothing, I had a black book. I call it my black book. And only at that time I used to journal in it, during that phase of my life. Even today, when there's something I'm feeling low, I just pick up that book and go through few pages, and I feel that, okay, I've gone through that, I can deal with this as well. There is one page when I used to go to therapy, and I changed around 3 to 4 therapists, but there was one therapist that I had, Dr. Neetu Rana, who had a profound impact on me. Like, her therapy sessions really helped me. That's a different thing, that even to get an appointment from her, it takes 2 months, but they were effective sessions. And she said something, and I've written that in my book. If you allow me, I can just read it out to you.
Please do. Please go ahead.
So she said, you are holding on to your friends / surrogate family in memories through rumination when you can't in person. You wish to change your life but lack motivation to translate them into actions. You need to take charge to bring change instead of being a victim of your past.
So how did this impact you? Or rather, what insight did it give it to you so as to navigate your life further on?
So she said, like I said, that she divided my life into 4 chapters. First one was when I was a firefighter. losing my parents and everything that was happening. Chapter 2, being a nomad, wasting my 20s, drinking and smoking with friends every weekend, not taking my career seriously. Chapter 3, when I got diagnosed and I became a victim. And chapter 4, redemption. And she was like, now you decide how you want to take your life forward from here. So she gave me few things to think about. That priority on investing in your own self. And this includes creating new intimate support system, commitment and a new attachment figure. And self-discipline and self-reliance. No emotional dependency on others is going to help you through this phase. Not that I understood it completely at that time, but now after so many years when I read through it, I think when she said create a new and intimate support system, she meant a life partner. And that has really helped me.
So how is your wife taking it now? I think 2 years or 3 years have gone by since marriage.
Yeah, yes, 2.5 years. We got
So
married.
how is she taking it now?
We have our good days and bad days. I realize sometimes it's because of my mood swings that it impacts her as well. And I communicate this with her. But I always tell her that, there are, and I have discussed a lot with her that this is like the minimum. Otherwise, in my support group, if you see, their highs and lows are quite a lot to impact so much that they can't even work. They can't. So if I'm able to hold on to a job and, just do everything, if sometimes I have my share of mood swing, and she's also understanding. I think she's been extremely, extremely, extremely patient and understanding during this journey. And I think that's what keeps me going now.
So you say you are in a job, right? So have you faced any stigma job-wise or from your relatives or friends? You have told me, but from your relatives, like, have you ever faced stigmatization in your life, your family or you?
I wouldn't say stigmatization. I think in my job, because I never disclosed it, Indian corporate sector is not ready for it right now. Let's just admit it. I could have, but I didn't want to take that chance. Let's just say that. Because sometimes, I train on unconscious bias, so I know it exists. So job front, I never disclosed it. Personally, I think, this one idiotic friend of mine who would call me pagal, just like that. I think that kind of discrimination I faced. And, even now, if he sometimes message, I don't feel like talking to that guy anymore. So yeah, but on the whole, I would say that people were quite understanding, and like I went through my journey, I think people around me also, in terms of their awareness, grew. But not major discrimination. I think self-stigmatization happens a lot more because of the things that you have done. First, I had to get rid of the self-stigmatization, that state that I was in. That, oh God, what have I done?
Explain a bit more, elaborate on self-stigmatization.
How could I abuse people? How could I say such nasty things to people? How could I, lose my job by abusing everyone in that job, by sending them weird emails? How could I say such all the I love my grandmother the most in this world. I had even slapped on her back during that time. And I can't imagine doing that. So yeah, those memories.
But you do remember doing all those, but often it happens that one forgets.
I think
like,
that's
did
the
I do
worst
this?
part. I think that's the worst part. If I would not have remembered, it would have been easier. Yeah, I don't remember, then people would be telling you. But the fact is, I remembered each and everything that I was doing at that time. I mean, your condition is that if it was raining, I would thought I am making that rain happen. I'm God. Imagine a human being to actually feel that I have superpowers. I am God. You do crazy things during that time. That's what I'm saying. That's why type 1 is much more disastrous than, I mean, not to compare, both have, but at least with type 2, your entire life doesn't disrupt. With a manic episode, you're left with nothing.
Hmm.
And that's one of my fears. If you ask me, one of the phobias that, oh God, I have survived 2 manic episodes. Now I have my life back on track. Please never let a third episode happen. I take my meds regularly. There's just one med that I take. I,
Hmm.
go to the doctor once in 6 months, but,
Hmm.
and I've been doing decent in my career now. I almost had to resurrect my career and I'm doing decent right now. So that's one of my biggest phobias. That
You are with the corporate firm or you are
yes,
on your
yes,
own?
I'm with the corporate firm right now.
So one thing I would like to ask Rajat, like you're giving this podcast and you said that you have not told your employers about it. So will it be a problem for you?
I don't think so. It should be a problem for me if they get to know through a podcast. It's fine, and I don't think so. I'm at that stage. If this becomes an issue with this, or I did not share because there's nothing to, something that happened years ago. Now I'm. But if they discriminate against this, then I don't think so. I don't think so. They'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that kind of an organization as well. MNCs have certain rules and regulations when it comes to mental health, and they are much more empathetic towards mental health than some of our Indian organizations.
Do you think that corporate firms or employers do not understand, though the law says something else, there should be no discrimination if the person is productive?
So sometimes I understand what you're saying, Geeta.
Hmm.
Sometimes, that's why even organizations, they hire, with the LGBTQ plus
Hmm.
people. They're
Hmm.
okay with it because their productivity doesn't get
Hmm.
hampered. But
Hmm.
when it comes to mental health, sometimes your productivity does get hampered.
Hmm.
So that's why the organizations also have these inhibitions that what if we take someone with, a certain condition and tomorrow work starts getting impacted? What will we do then? So all these things are there. It's not black and white as simple as it seems. But I think even in organizations, COVID-19 act as a catalyst to talk about mental health. In my previous organization, I was really active talking about mental health and mental health issues. I
Hmm.
think, they had an org psychologist and so organizations are also becoming aware since
Hmm.
by 2030, mental health is going to be another pandemic that's coming.
Hmm. So, what do you think the basic rights of individuals with mental health conditions should be taken care of by the society? Like, what should society, so as to make society more inclusive?
Yes. And, society should be inclusive on a lot of other things as well. But,
Hmm.
right now, forget about society being inclusive. Even the
Hmm.
medical health insurance policies are not inclusive towards mental health issues. I think there's hardly any. So these are the challenges also faced
Do you
by
have a
people.
medical insurance?
I have a health insurance, but the mental health aspect is not covered in it. So very
Did you
few, and
not declare it there that you have a mental health issue, or like what?
it's the law is pretty confusing. They do not cover anything
Hmm.
related to mental health. They do not cover it. They don't have it in their policy.
Hmm.
So and B, I think even in the declaration form, they ask for smoking and everything. There's nothing to declare in that regarding mental health because they don't cover it. So there are a few cases going on where they're saying that health insurance companies should at least start providing cover to, if something happens regarding mental health to anyone.
They do have that clause, Rajat. It's a different thing that most of the insurance companies do not follow, that they uh, make out some excuse or the other for
Yeah.
not including mental health, mental illness. But they have a clause that it cannot be discriminated. So, but they do it.
Okay. That's good to know. But that's what I'm saying, that people, our society in general, I feel, and if I would have said I have cancer, people would have still shown some kind of empathy that, okay, not that they understand the science behind cancer, that it's a serious illness, but when it comes to mental health, because you can't see it, you think it's not there, because a person might seem absolutely normal from outside. There was this one lady in my support group who would tell me that, Rajat, mental health journey is a lonely journey. Don't expect anything from anyone. And as pessimistic as it might sound, I think sometimes it helps when you accept it.
Yes, that's true. So what coping mechanism do you, or strategies rather, do you employ with yourself to be more helpful in dealing with your highs and lows on day-to-day basis?
So I don't feel extreme highs and lows on my day-to-day basis. Maybe, on a Sunday evening, my Monday blues might be a little more heightened. But after my first episode, I knew that only thing that can bring me back on track is a routine. And that's what it took me 2 years to understand that. But when in 2018, the second episode happened, I did not just, I got up within 9 months and started working again. What took me 2 years after the first episode, because after the second episode, I knew, boss, either waste another 2 years sitting at home or you have to get up and get going. And I think 9 months recovery time is a pretty good recovery time, because my second manic episode lasted for 3 months, which is, longer than the first one. But when in 2019 I started working, I realized that the best way to handle my highs and lows is to be engaged, is to be distracted, is to have a routine. Wake up, go, no matter how you're feeling, come back and find other ways, whatever you enjoy the little things in life on weekend. And definitely after marriage, a lot of things, that at least now I have someone to share my feelings with, which I did not earlier. So all of that support, that family support, your own awareness, a routine, feeling, a sense of that fine, I'm being a productive member of society, so to speak. And definitely, few breathing exercises, and although I'm not regular with yoga, but I prefer walking. But yeah, all these things, a holistic lifestyle does help with or without
How
mental
many
health.
hours do you sleep?
So sleep is extremely, extremely important with bipolar type 1. The first symptom is always that you would sleep, let's say at 2 a.m. and you will be up by 5. That's the first symptom. So now I try to sleep on time. I think I sleep for around 6 to 7 hours. Sleep is extremely important.
Yeah, I know. So what, you said that you lost many friends, you lost your job also. How has it changed your perspective on life, relationships, and personal growth? The bipolar disorder, how has it changed your perspective about life in general?
I think I'm more patient now. I'm more spiritual, and I think there is more acceptance in me for situations, for people, which was not earlier. There's a sense of acceptance that life goes on no matter what. And person should be mentally ready till the time your physical body, your mental health is fine. You can fight other situations in life, but your physical, mental, emotional health should be fine. And just don't expect too much from others. Don't expect too much. When there are expectations, more often than not, it leads to disappointment.
Do you think your experiences of life you can use them to do advocacy for mental health?
I think I'm already doing that with this podcast, and whatever little bit that I do. Beyond that, if I get an opportunity, why not? But have I actually actively thought about it right now? Not really. But whatever avenue I have gotten to
Because
speak,
lived experiences matter a lot, Rajat. And that's what I think they make hell of a difference. They make a lot of difference.
yeah, they do. Certainly they do. I think probably I sometimes think about it. Probably I'll start seriously I'll start seriously thinking about
Because you
what you
shared
said.
something from your black book, and of course, that was your therapist saying. Have you written something about yourself also, like what you feel or felt any time, any challenging moment that has gone by in
So
your black book?
I have written positive, negative, ugly, everything, but there were few pointers that I had written when I wanted to get my life back on track, and I think this was after the second episode.
That was
Uh,
in 2018, you said.
that was in 2018. It started in March in
Hmm.
2018, and for 3 months it was there. I came like I hit came back from the manic episode after in July.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Can you
June,
read
July.
a bit of it?
I can read a bit of it. So they are just pointers.
Hmm.
Um, the first one is books are your best friends. Find a real aim in life. I will never give up. You are your best medicine. No dependence on anyone. Make your sufferings your USP. Silent determination. New life with new vigor. There is always a choice. Never ever lose hope. Work tirelessly. Defeat bipolar disorder. You
Hmm.
are awesome. Love yourself.
That's good. In schools, should mental health be taught?
I think there is no question about it. Our education system does not even equip us how to deal with grief later on in life. And everyone goes through grief. Everyone loses people as you grow older. Our education system does not even equip us with such situations in life. So
Hmm.
definitely emotional intelligence, mental health, this needs to be, there is no question about it, that it needs to be a part of education system. Our education system is flawed, and I think movies play an extremely important role in a society. There was this movie that came with Shah Rukh Khan and Alia Bhatt, Dear Zindagi. I think
Hmm.
such movies create a lot of awareness in
Hmm.
society. COVID-19, people who would frown upon therapy started going for therapy because they were going crazy. What to do now?
Hmm.
So I think COVID
And
after COVID-19, that
what do you expect from the government and organizations?
I think I I think I don't, more than the government, I expect from the corporate organizations, especially the MNCs or even the Indian ones,
Hmm.
that start talking openly about it. Start talking openly about it, because it does not need to be a very serious mental health issue like, borderline personality disorder or schizophrenia. Depression and anxiety have become like the new cold and cough.
Hmm.
So organizations, and few of them, the good ones, already are talking about it very seriously.
Hmm.
And yeah, so it see, the mindset does not change in couple of years. It takes for society to be that, to have that kind of sensitivity, for people to know that, how devastating it can be. It takes some time, especially in a
Hmm.
country like ours. It's not not about right or wrong. It's about
Hmm.
what's reality out there. But I'm glad that organizations are talking about it. At least the corporate sector is being responsible.
One last question. When you come back from depression and you search for another job, do you ever feel that your peers have gone up the ladder, whereas you have remained wherever you were 6 months back?
Actually, sometimes yes, but mostly no,
Hmm.
because I know where I've come from. from a state where I was certain that I'll not be able to work my entire life. From there on, I think I've covered a lot in the last 6 years, since 2019, when I started working again. I think I've been stable. I've done decent. And now, when you've gone through so much, you sometimes tend to go above all these things. Who's doing what and who's not. You're just glad that you're able to live your life peacefully. Yeah, but what do you want I'll be turning 40 this year. So what do I want to see in the next phase of my life? I think that excites me more rather than the things that are not there.
Would you like to highlight anything in conclusion? Like if you would like to say something special to the listeners or anything that you would like to share?
I would just like to say, and especially to the listeners, people who have not gone through mental health issue, I hope that this entire podcast made you more aware of it. And those of you who are going through any kind of mental health issue, just take one day at a time. And sometimes when we are in a dark tunnel, we think there's no ray of hope, there's no ray of light. But even if we keep moving in that dark tunnel, at the end, you do see light coming. So there might be times when we feel like giving up, but no, giving up is not an option. At least take baby steps. Self-love is important in life.
Very well said, Rajat, and thank you for giving your time, and it was lovely talking to you.
Thank you so much, Geeta. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure, indeed.
You were listening to Zindagi Matters, special edition on mental health and human rights, supported by Taiwan Foundation for Democracy.